And you've talked about, yourself, and you say you don't like to use the word bipolar. You like the term manic depressive, and I'm wondering if that even further connects you sometimes to the points in the book or to the human race, or I mean, even to your roles on screen. I can't think of, you seem to me to be the first actor that ever brought that into the roles in such a way. I mean, it's in Jaws, it's in Close Encounters. We see this guy who is this kind of manic depressive, and I'm curious if that was intentional when you brought that in, or was that Richard just being Richard? And in those moments, are you ultra connected? I don't know, to the human race.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was asked by George Lucas to appear in American Graffiti, he offered me two roles. I could take my pick of two roles. One of them was Charlie, the kind of nerdy goofball, smart but a goofball. And the other one was Kurt, the actor, the character who was me. And I chose Kurt, and George said, "Why?" And I said, because Kurt is self-aware. He's aware of who he is in school, in his family, and he had this awareness. And so we designed one moment in the film is all about that. It's about the fact that I try to open up my locker, which is no longer mine, and I don't know the new formula for getting in, and it makes me laugh. And it was just for no real reason my way of expressing that life goes on, and things that you think mean your intimate knowledge of the character is all gone, wiped clean, a whiteboard, and other people now have a closer understanding of that. So I've imposed that quality on almost every character I've ever played.
Yeah, and I see it now. Now I see it in so many of your roles. And I got to tell you a quick story. So almost 11 years ago to this day, I quit my job in banking and I started broadcasting, just like we are here today, having long form conversations in my kitchen. Nobody was doing it. Everyone thought I was crazy. There was no business model. My friends and family didn't even watch it for years, Richard, years. And, after I stuck with it for 5 years, 10 years, started having some success. And some people said, well, what kept you going? And I always say, you know what? I was a bit like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I was building my mashed potatoes, and I didn't know why, but I knew it was something, I was connecting to something bigger. It was going to be part of something bigger, maybe something to do with humanity. But I didn't know what I was doing, and to the outside world, I looked crazy. But then later, it seemed to play a part in this common goal of pushing humanity forward. And that's an analogy I use sometimes, and people look at me in a strange way, and then they usually change the topic. But I thought I'd share that with you.
That is exactly what I say. It's exactly what I say. And I've used that character, Roy Neary, as the perfect example of that, because he does have the courage to go with something that is clearly beyond his understanding, and it actually takes him away from his family.
Yeah.
And especially in those days when we shot the film, one of the things that made it special, and it was special, that this is a character who did something against the wishes and desires of his entire family, his children and his wife. And I would have insisted on that, but I didn't have to, because Stephen completely understood why I wanted to do that.
And so that was you and him kind of collaborating and saying it needed to be that extreme, because she takes the kids and leaves. I mean, that's a very hard thing to happen to a man, and yet you still are honoring this pull to do this thing. And it's visceral. And I think so many people relate because it was so raw, and you didn't really see that in movies back then, like you said.
Yeah, if you had such a compulsion or such an obsession, it was usually explained in some way that made it seem okay. But there was no okay. There was no allowance for that kind of behavior. It was a write-off as far as my wife was concerned. And it was a terrible, damaging moment in my children's lives. But there was no choice. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was on the set, a decision was made that allowed me to make a decision that was going to hurt and damage his own reputation, his own feeling of moral correctness. And I said, yes, he is, but he has no choice, none. And if you notice, there's a woman, the last person who is seen in that montage is an old lady. And she's thrilled to be there. And that's my grandmother. Because she's seeing it from an old lady's point of view.
How much of that was acting and how much of that was just Richard?
Well, Stephen is a very open director. He mixes it up with his actors. And there was a lot of Stephen in that characterization. And with my enthusiasm and support, yeah, he loved any idea that kept him Roy Neary and yet allowed him the room to express this odd thing. And it was great.
Did you enjoy making that, or was it also exhausting?
Well, it was both, but certainly I enjoyed it. I was in the grip of an obsession. And many years later, Stephen said that had he been married as the character, or as Stephen, if he'd been married and had children, which he did, he would never have had the same ending. And I said, with all due respect, there was no other ending. And it would have ended in that way. It would have ended with him doing something like getting on that ship that he had to do it.
The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.